I can't believe I sit and film videos. If you would have said to me 10 years ago that you'll be sitting there filming your videos in your comfy hoodies, I would never have believed you. But it's the start of the Newts Readathon and I thought I would sit down and introduce it, I guess. Today is the 1st of August and I sort of started a couple of days ago just because I've got a lot going on in August. Neil's 30th birthday is this month, so we have got, from like the 16th onwards, we've got a lot going on in our spare time with having barbecues and parties, and we are also off to London at the end of the month, just myself and Neil. Sorry, I've got hair in my mouth, joys of having a cat. So that's going to take up a weekend of me reading, or an evening, or 3 evenings I should say, with my reading. So I cheated. Probably shouldn't, but I don't really care because I can make the rules up as I want. And I have already read a book that was a part of my TBR. However, I might add another one in because my book club pick of this month, obviously by the time you see it, it'll be last month's, is Roomies by Christina Lauren. And that wasn't a part of my TBR. Whether I have the time or not, or whether I'm just going to have to switch out a book to make that fit, that is what I will do. So the book that I read, I wanted to read it in case I wanted to make it book club pick of the month or not. And I enjoyed it and I gave it 4 stars. I'll probably give it like a 3.5. But I didn't think it was worth people spending $4 or $5.99 on Kindle, or people really struggling to try and find it. I apologise about the lighting. And that was the Colleen Hoover Confess. Like I said, I read it, I enjoyed it. It took me maybe like 4 or 5 days, which is quite a long time for me in a book. It was my first ever Colleen Hoover, and from what I read, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the writing style. I enjoyed how it was 2 POVs, so the main character, Auburn and Owen, and I liked how it went back in time to explain situations that went on within this book. It's a young adult, definitely a young adult. Reasons why I didn't like it: basically it follows this girl called Auburn. She's going through a difficult time. She fell in love and her first love passed away, and then it skips like 5 years later and she's 23. I can't remember, and she walks past this place and they desperately need help, and it's like an art gallery, and that's how she meets Owen, because Owen is the owner of the art gallery and he basically needs her to basically be his assistant for the day whilst he's hosting this event. And we follow the story from there. I found it very unrealistic, which is why it was a young adult. They fell in love within like a 3 or 4 day period. It was very quick, very instant. And like I said, I enjoyed it and it was escapism, it was a quick read. But for me, in my sensible head, I don't like books that are really unrealistic, and I found this incredibly unrealistic. There was a bit of like domestic violence within here, a bit of emotional blackmail. It was a good read and I recommend it. Don't recommend paying the price. If it's ever like 99p on Kindle, maybe $1.99, go ahead and read it, but I wouldn't spend $5.99 or whatever it's listed at the moment. Wouldn't do it. This is a library book, so I was quite lucky to get my hands on it, so I'm going to return this now. So that is book 1 done, and this was my prompt for, can't remember which class, but it was for read a book that's been recommended to you by a friend, and that was by people that are on my book club that said you need to try Colleen Hoover. So I've got one down. Now I've taken a different tone and I'm going to start, obviously you would have seen my TBR, I'm starting this. I've read 1 chapter, Ask Me His Name by Elle Wright. I'm enjoying it so far. Obviously I've just read 1 chapter and it's just setting this. It's weird because I know this happened in real life. It's basically like a blog post and a book. That's what I've gathered so far. So there's a bit of hair, again, cat hair on my lens. It's just weird getting into it because I read novels. I don't ever read true fiction. And because I know this happened and I know the outcome, it's just a weird thing for me to get my head around. So we've literally just read her childhood and everything that happened, her meeting her husband, and we're now up to the part where she found out she was pregnant. I don't know how it's going to, obviously I know how it's going to go, but I don't know how the narrative of the book's going to be. I think this is going to be one, I never have done, ever in my life, read 2 books at once, but this might be one of those things where I can pick it up, put it down, and because it's not a story per se, obviously it's the lady's story, but it's not like a fiction, I think it might be a good filler book. Because obviously I've just read a YA, I need something different for the meantime. I might read 5 to 7 chapters and then start a another chick lit, and then have it as like a breaking book, a breaking point book, a book in the middle. You know what I mean? So I've got that, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm really excited to read my Mary-Kate and Ashley book because I'm just excited to read it. I haven't read them in like 15 years. And I can't wait to read those. So that's where I'm at. I just thought I'd introduce the video. I'm glad I did my TBR separately. If not this would be really long. So I hope you're all enjoying taking part in the readathon. I know a couple of you have reached out to me on Instagram and they're like, I know it's really geeky, but I want to do this too. So I've helped some of you sort out your TBRs and stuff, which I love. I love that I'm doing it with some people. Like, it fills me with a lot of joy. So I'm gonna go for now, and I will film my updates and my reading and stuff as we go. I am 147 pages into Asking His Name by Elle Wright. It's not an easy read, obviously. It's about death in babies, but it's so beautifully written. I can't put it into words. Like I said, I'm finding it hard to read because obviously I have a little girl, and I'm now up to the point where I don't like talking about it like it's fiction, but she's obviously explained about how her pregnancy went and how she lost Teddy, and she's going through like the months after and trying to get back into routine or life pre-baby when she was a mum for 3 days, obviously for 9 months and then for 3 days, and she's just been added to this group chat with loads of different mothers that had suffered loss. There was a girl called Amy, and she had a daughter called Phoebe, and she died, the little girl died during labour. There was another one that had a little girl called Florence who died during labour. A woman called Sam had a son that was a stillborn, and it's just awful. Like, reading it, it's not an easy read, and it's not light-hearted at all, and I think, oh my god, like, getting to your end of your pregnancy and then whilst in labour, like, your baby dies, like, it's not spoken about. I mean, reading this, I think, shit me, like, obviously I knew it could happen, but the implications and the practicalities of it is like, how can it just suddenly happen like that? And it's terrifying. Childbirth and pregnancy and this whole, it's just absolutely terrifying. I don't even know how to put it into words, how this book makes me feel. I'm enjoying it in the most twisted way. It's lovely to read her story, and it's taken me a long time. What we're now, the 5th of August, so it's taken me 5 days to read that, which it's quite slow for me, but because it's quite a heavy book, I don't want to pick it up and read it and devour it. I read it a couple of chapters at a time, but I think it's a very, very important and thought-provoking read, so I do recommend it if you feel like you can handle it, I guess. But I will give you my thoughts when I finish it. So today is the 7th of August and I am now about to start a new book. So, was it yesterday or the day before? I finished, I keep trying to call it her Instagram name, it's not, it's called Ask Me His Name by Elle Wright. Like I said, it took me a while to get through it because it was a really difficult book and like a difficult subject to read about. But I'm really glad that I did, and it really opened my eyes to things. So I definitely recommend giving it a read if you feel like you're in the headspace to do so. I apologise, I'm in my pyjamas. I feel like I always film my book stuff when I'm in my pyjamas. It's now 8:30 and I'm going to pick up another book. It's time to read Twenties Girl by Sophie K. So many of you have told me to read this, like so many of you. So I really hope that the expectation isn't too high, because obviously I've had so many recommendations being like, oh my god, you need to read this, this is great, it's funny, blah blah blah. So I'm going to get started and I'll probably check in with you tomorrow because I'm going to read, I can't remember how long chapters are with Sophie K's. So I'm going to read a couple of chapters. It's just gone 8:30. I'm really tired and I've got an early start tomorrow with P. So God, I'm going to read a couple of chapters and then go to bed. A really hard and busy day at work, and I'm now about to probably finish my book and have a little pamper sesh in the bath. So I will update you my thoughts once I've finished, but I'm really enjoying this. Finished Twenties Girl by Sophie Kinsella. Today is August the 12th, so I'm only on book 2, which, considering I've got to read 7, is not great because we're almost through the month and I've got a lot of things coming up. But I've got that Mary Kate and Ashley that's quite a small one. I knew I wasn't going to do them all. Actually no, I did do a TBR, one of my TBRs, that Confess, but I did that in July because I'm cheating, but that's fine. So I've read 3 books, that's okay. This was a big book. This was 480 pages, really big chick lit, and I really enjoyed it. I'm not going to do a separate review on this because this is a readathon and I want all my thoughts within one video. But if I had read this and it wasn't a readathon, I would have done a video separately on it. So I just want to sit and chat about it all. So there'll be spoilers because obviously I've spoiled it up to this point anyway. Really enjoyed it. Really happy that you all recommended it to me. It was very funny. I found the first half of the book funnier than the second half. I found that I was laughing out loud. And then as the story developed, I just felt warm inside. And I really liked, if you haven't read it, chick lit is normally like these, not fancy, like flouncy, warm, like all about love interest, and that was not this at all. I've never read a chick lit like it. It was all about friendship, and like love interest wasn't the main part. Obviously there was a part of the book that had love interest in it, but this was all about her relationship with her great aunt Sadie and how great aunt Sadie pushed her into doing things that she would never have done and made her go out of her comfort zone. And I just loved the character development and the relationship that they had together. When I finished it, I almost cried. I had to take like 5-10 minutes before I filmed this because I knew I was going to cry, and I'm not in the mood to cry right now. I'm now about to have my jacket potato. I don't want to be crying and eating my food, but I really enjoyed it, and it was just full circle, and I didn't know how it was going to go, so there were twists and turns throughout. I was really shocked to find out about Bill, her uncle, the millionaire with the coffee shop. I knew he was like snaky, but the fact that he didn't make his coffee shop from 2 coins, he made it from $500,000 because he cashed in or sold that painting to the gallery. Like, at least it went to a gallery. I knew something snaky was going on, but it was all full circle, and Lara found out about the past that Sadie had with that Stephen that ended up being like a really famous painter, and her famous painting was everywhere. And there were times in the book when I was really frustrated, but like I said, it went all full circle. Sadie's name was out there. Everyone knew who she was and like her legacy and everything. And who's that messaging me? Neil. They found the necklace and she got that back, and I didn't know how it was going to go. I didn't know whether Sadie would have been happy to have found the necklace and then just let Lara keep it as like a memento of her, or whether she wanted it back, obviously in her coffin. And that was the thing. And I didn't know whether once she got the necklace back, whether she would, like, the spirit would have disappeared, or whether it would have been after the funeral and then she would have gone. But as soon as she was reunited with the necklace, like, the spirit disappeared. My heart broke for Lara. But I just really liked the book. I thought it was so cleverly written. It was so funny. And it was just really light-hearted, and I really enjoyed it. I will give it 4 stars, not a 5. I don't know why it's not a 5 for me. I can't put my finger on it. I think it'll be one that I look and smile about, and I would suggest it to people, but it didn't, even I almost cried, it didn't pull on my heartstrings, but I really enjoyed it, and I don't know whether this one will be one of my favourite reads of the month. It was very good, and I'm really happy that you all kept going on at me, telling me to read it. So I am back for the wrap-up of my readathon. I failed, and I am really cross that I failed, but to be fair, 7 books during the summer holidays, it was a big ask, and I knew I wasn't going to get round to it. I have actually returned some of the books to the library, so I can't sit here and show them to you, but I'm going to put pictures on the screen if I remember. I will try to remember. I have obviously, my battery's flashing, bear with. Hopefully this battery, whoops, will last. Yeah, that seems fine. Right, battery change done. Oh, God's sake, my legs won't stay crossed on the bed. I have written everything down in my reading journal, which I showed in the Newts wrap-up. Wrap-up, sorry, I'm doing the Newts now. So I have written my spread. I was so excited at the start of the month to do this and fill it all out, and I had really high expectations, and I just failed. So I picked herbologist again. I think you could have changed careers, but I stuck with what I did, which was care of magical creatures, herbology and potions. So like I said, that was 4, I wish it was 4 books, it was 7 books. I ended up reading 4, but technically I did read 1 in July. I basically cheated throughout this whole thing, and I feel really disappointed, but I think I gave myself too much of a challenge, and I shouldn't have done. So my book 1, which was for care of magical creatures, I needed a book that starts with an A. I'll show you my little spread, which is this one here. And I read Ask Me His Name by L. Wright. So that was the first book that I read, sort of technically within the month. of August. Really enjoyed the book. Still, on reflection, it's been a month since I read it. I would still give it the 4 stars. I don't think about it often, but whenever I look at her Instagram page, I think about the book and I think about what she's been through, and I really hope she gets her happy ending with having a healthy, like, full-term pregnancy. I really hope she is able to give birth within like the next 5 years, if that's something that she wants. I know that she's been trying to do IVF and stuff, and I really hope they get that. When this goes live, during this month I was pregnant, but none of you knew, and I read that book whilst being pregnant, and it wasn't fun. And obviously first trimester, you've got all these things going on in your head anyway, and then I thought, fucking hell, I can get through the whole pregnancy, and then it happened at the end, and it was really hard, I'm not gonna lie, but I'm glad I read it. I recommend it if you feel like you would be able and strong enough to read it. It's really eye-opening, and it makes you realise how lucky and how much of a blessing not only becoming pregnant but also being a mum is, which I know it is anyway, but day-to-day life, like, you just get busy and toddlers are annoying and things like that, but we are, as parents, so lucky to be able to do that. So that was my first book, and I still stand by my rating of 4 stars. Book 2 was Confess by Colleen Hoover, and that's for Potions, a friend's favourite book. So I just went off recommendations from you guys. Like I said, that is the one that I read in July. It was the end of July. I think I rated that 4 stars. Hang on, let me check my... I did rate it 4. I'm gonna change that, and I would review it and rate it as a 3, I think. The more the time's gone on, don't really remember much, if I'm being completely honest. There is a TV show, apparently. One of you reached out to me on Instagram and said, look, the show's on, like, is it not More 4? E4? No? 4 Music. One of those weird channels that I never watch. And I recorded them all, and I watched a trailer on YouTube, and it looked awful, so I haven't wasted any time watching it. I can imagine it's quite cringy. It hasn't really followed the storyline of the book, as from what I'm aware of. Yeah, it doesn't look that great, so like I said, on reflection, it's one of those books that I would probably never recommend to someone. I enjoyed it whilst I was reading it, but I've sort of forgotten the plot line. I remember it being quite unrealistic. I did enjoy it, but it's not one that I would recommend. So that was Confess. Book 3 was for Potions again, and that was for Hogwarts House Colour, and my house colour is red. I don't know why I keep showing you my spread, but there you go. Not like that focus at all. My Mary Kate and Ashley 2 of a Kind. I'm not gonna lie, this took me a really long time to read it. I started it and read like 40 pages, which is half. And then P decided to play with the book, and I lost it within the house. And I wasn't going to start a new book before I finished this one. It's just how I read. This is the epitome of my childhood. Like I said, I've got so many of these in the garage. Which I will be keeping for P. This was so random. So they were at a... God, sorry, I'm tired. They were at a boarding school. It was Christmas time, and they had a class project that they had to do. One of the girls was British, and she was annoyed. Secret Santa was involved. A lot of phrases like totally, and I can't remember, just like a lot of American phrases were in this, obviously because it's an American book. Everyone was really really energetic and things like that, and the only thing that made it really Christmassy was it was like, we've got to go and have hot chocolate and caroling and things like that. It was, to be fair though, for an 80-page book, I probably loved this back in the day, but actually reading it I thought, what a load of rubbish. I'm not going to read them all back to back because I haven't got time for that. I've got plenty of books to read on my shelf. I gave it 2 stars. I'd still give it 2 stars just for the memories, I guess, and the sentimental side. I'm happy that I've got them for P. I'm obviously not going to enjoy them because I'm 26. But for 9 to 13-year-olds, I would say yes. So P is going to have these in like 5 years' time. And then the final one that I read was for Herbology, and that was a book with a green colour, and mine, again, I cheated. Oh, I feel really silly filming this video. It was my 20s girl. I rated this 4 stars. I still stick by 4 stars. It's not one that I've thought about regularly since I finished it, but I did really enjoy it. And some of you have reached out to me on Instagram and said, the blurbs really put me off. Like, did you like it? And I said, ignore the blurb and go into it. It's all about friendship, and I still think it was a lovely read. I remember the plot. Bear in mind it's been a month. I remember like all the key parts, and whenever I think about this book, like I said in my wrap up, I feel full circle, and I'm really happy with how this went. And yeah, I would recommend it. So if you want a nice chick lit which is not all lovey-dovey, then pick this one up. Friendship based. Really liked that. So my 2 prompts I was so close to finishing was for Herbology. So I passed Care of Magical Creatures and Potions, but I failed in the Herbology, and that was a book between 350-390 pages. That pissed me off, that prompt, because there were so many other books that I could have read and it didn't fit the prompt, so it just made me not want to read. And then the other one was a book with a flower on the cover. I said I was going to read Crazy Rich Asians. I knew I wasn't going to, so I probably shouldn't have done that. Whilst doing the readathon, I will quickly say that I have started reading this. What? It's taking me so long to get through books at the moment. I think it's because I'm pregnant. I'm just so tired and I haven't got the motivation. I have got the time now that P's back at school, but I just can't be asked to read at the moment, which is horrible. Shouldn't really be saying that in a readathon vlog, but hey ho. So I've started reading The Raven Boys because I've heard about this so much on BookTube. It's always in my local library, and I thought, sod it, I'm going to get it. I am this far in, so I've got maybe 100, 150 pages left to go. I just don't get it, and again, I'm reading a book where I'm not really enjoying it, so I just don't want to read, but I'm also not going to pick anything else up because I need to finish it. It's just how my brain works. It's very bizarre. This wouldn't fit with any of my prompts. I think if it did, then I obviously would have read it a lot quicker. There's no flowers and it's over 400 pages, so it doesn't fit. It's about like magic and some like dead king. I don't really know why I picked it up because it doesn't sound like something that I'd like. There's this like dead king. Is it fantasy? I don't really know. It's like psychics, and I'm just a bit confused by it, if I'm completely honest. A bit paranormal. I have skipped a couple of the chapters because I think it's a bit dull. There are multiple POVs and I'm just not enjoying it. So I'm in a bit of a rut. I've been in so much of a rut that I haven't actually picked a September book club pick, which I feel awful for. By the time this video goes live, you'll obviously know why. But I feel awful. So if you are a part of my book club, please bear with me. I'm going to bring it back properly in October. The summer have just I've been completely drained during the summer holidays with obviously early pregnancy, first trimester. Wow, there is a big cobweb right there. Wow, can you see that? Can you see that? Probably not. Like, nice. I think I need to get my duster out today. Yeah, with P being on summer holidays and stuff, I just haven't really had time to interact, and I hate it. And I put that pressure on myself and I feel really bad. So hopefully you'll all understand and stick with me. I will hopefully have some reviews coming up soon when I eventually read some good books. I hope you have all enjoyed this readathon wrap-up vlog, whatever you want to call it, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye!